Over the past decade or so, more and more Americans now live in a place where marijuana has been legalized, but that does not mean it's universal. Lots of parts of the country currently have total bans even on medical use of it. And so activist efforts continue in various parts of the country to try to create some sort of equitable situation when it comes to access. And one of those activists joins us now. Activist, burn survivor of the 2003 San Diego wildfires and VP nominee for the Legalized Marijuana Now party, Rudy Reyes. Welcome to the Damage Report.
How you doing, John? It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you here. And so, look, I guess I live in California, and so marijuana is legal here, and it effectively was legal here even before it was legal here. And so you come from a different part of the country, and you're still part of an effort to try to make that happen. Can you tell us about the candidacy and about the party?
Well, let me see. I'm part of the Legalized Marijuana Now party. And the idea there is we need to have marijuana legalized, not only for medical, but for its own use across the United States. This drug has been horribly made into a monstrous situation, which it doesn't deserve. There are many people out there who, like me, could have found a medical use for it, which aren't even being allowed. And that's basically the issue.
Yeah, and you talk about it being like sort of made into a monstrous situation. It's demonized. I saw Senator Marco Rubio made a joke about reefer for everyone a couple of days ago. Similar jokes have been made on Fox News. I guess, again, because of the bubble I live in, I feel like we've moved past that. But there are still people who have that 1990s or 1950s belief of what the drug actually represents. But I'm curious, do you believe that, I guess the tide has come in, the tide has turned on people's view of what the drug actually is and what it does?
I believe that the tide really turned probably about 5 years ago, when we started to get about 20 to 25 states legalizing within the nation. We had a big change. And with that change came people starting to realize that this could be an effective medicine.
So tell me about the particular use of your party inside of Minnesota, where you can't have ballot initiatives, which is how it's been legalized in a lot of different states. So tell me about the path over the past couple of decades to try to get it legalized.
Well, the issue has always been like, California, where what we really did was use the People's Initiative and got the people to support it and made a people's ballot. There are other states where that's not possible. So what we're doing in those states is making it so that you have advocates like me approaching and lobbying for medical marijuana and medical patients. There are ways to change the laws. It's slow. And unfortunately, the majority of my experience has shown me that the politicians are the problem. A law can be passed like here in California for medical marijuana, but unless the politicians are willing to step forward and initiate those laws, it's pointless.
So I'm curious, as this Democratic primary is going on, virtually all of them say that they would legalize marijuana. Many of them say they do it on day one. I believe, don't quote me on this, that Mike Bloomberg might be the only one saying that he would not go that far. So I guess as an activist in this area, do you trust them on this? Do you believe that if the Democrats win in November, we will have full federal legalization?
Honestly, I don't. And the reason is because there's so much money that's set up against cannabis in general. Whether you're talking alcohol just because they don't want to lose sales, or pharmaceuticals because the same situation, they don't want to lose their sales. Plastics alone are trying to stop us. Paper, there's a big conglomeration of corporations that wouldn't want to see this go forward. And unfortunately, the politicians are very apt to take their money and campaign for them rather than do something which is good for the public currently.
So you believe that this might be one of the areas where they'll say what they think they need to win an election, but it'll be relatively easy for them to turn their back on it once they're sworn in?
Correct.
So let me ask you about your own position as an activist. We've had a lot of candidates on the Damage Report, many congressional candidates, Senate candidates, even some presidential candidates. You are, I believe, the first vice presidential candidate. Tell me about the choice to run specifically to be vice president.
Well, I was asked by this national organization, which the idea is to push it towards a whole national movement. Right now, if you look at it, it looks like it's mostly a Midwest situation with the Legalized Cannabis Now party. But the idea is to, put out that olive branch to spaces like California, spaces where we have legalization and medical use, and get them on board too. So you'll notice that you have people like me starting to pop up and speak because we need people like me to speak. The population itself has a lot of people that could benefit from this. And unfortunately, we're being led down a pharmacological avenue.
Yeah. And you've said in past interviews that prior to surviving that 2003 San Diego fire, you were not political. Tell me about that transition.
Well, okay. In my fires, I was opened up to the idea of medical cannabis. Before that, I was one of those DARE teachers. I was a 7th and 8th grade math specialist. And after the fires, I was left with 75% burns, lost a finger, and lost an ear. I had to really learn how to deal with my pain management. And unfortunately, in the hospital, I was starting to OD from all the opiates that they were giving me. I was literally turning a green shade color. The doctor decided to try a last minute thing and see if I would live on medical marijuana. I did. I was one of their big test subjects. And with that, it made me aware that that was something that we could actually try. Yeah. So I started to grow my own and become my own advocate for this. Unfortunately, the county of San Diego has held a long resistance against medical marijuana. So next thing I know, they ordered my house to be raided. Simply put, I had an illegitimate raid where they came to my door, knocked politely, came in, raided, took everything of valuable to me, and left me with a card from the district attorney.
Wow.
That night, I had a quick decision. Either blow it up in the media or allow the courts to handle it. And if I had allowed the courts to handle it, it wouldn't have came out very positive for me at all. So I went to the media and I did a huge thing and made the police force look bad because, San Diego specifically, they are very pro-marijuana. It's just the politicians aren't. So next thing I know, I had the district attorney contacting me and they wanted to drop all charges. And it made me realize I had rights. We had rights. And that was the big breakthrough. If they were going to be there sitting at that seat making these decisions that were going to go against me personally, it's a political seat. Why can't I run for that seat? So I started to run politically. I ran for my county supervisor seat. I've run for my local mayor's seat. Doesn't mean I'm going to win anything. Again, I'm a squeaky wheel here. I'm trying to make sure that other people get their voice heard.
Okay, well, that's awesome. And we certainly support that. Rudy, where can people find out more about your candidacy?
Go to Legalized Marijuana Now. That's one of the main ones. You can find my Facebook page, Rudy Reyes. There's also a Legalized Marijuana Now Facebook page. There's a lot of information out there. It's just a matter of doing your own research and educating yourself.
Okay, Rudy Reyes, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Appreciate it, sir.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.